I'm very glad to welcome you today on the special edition of Responsible Fashion Series, dedicated to re-evaluation of Balkan crafts and fashion. I have the honor to lead the discussion during this 2 days international webinar. Briefly to introduce myself at the start, my name is Kristina Gligorovska. I'm a fashion researcher, editor, and creative industries consultant with extensive experience in the fashion tech domain. Since 2005, my incentive was to analyze fashion as a discipline that reflects on various culture and has led me towards acquiring international academic and professional experience in Stockholm, Paris, London, Shanghai, Tokyo, New York, and Seoul. For over 10 years, I've been exploring fashion as a multidisciplinary field, specifically focusing on the link between contemporary fashion topic and tech trends. And today it's been all about digital fashion. So, going back to the conference, today and tomorrow, we will explore and reflect on the particular theme of value in crafts and fashion, while emphasizing education and youth professional development. To be more specific, we will try to deconstruct new principles to structure the future of crafts and fashion in the Balkan region. So addressing to all of you today, no matter if you're a fashion professional or a fashion aficionado, I want to ask you to reflect on the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about Balkans and its fashion sensibility. I'm sure that many of you will think about recognizable craftsmanship, diversity, unique visual identity, unique design approach, tradition, rich heritage, and meticulous artisanal style. But you may also think that all of these values are not enough recognized, visible, nor promoted. So in these 2 days, we will try to determine what is quintessential in the Balkan countries in the quest to put the region on the global map that currently echoes sustainability. In this pandemic-stricken world, we will still need to meet virtually. But here today with me is Sveta. We decided to respect the measures and organize a hybrid event just to depict a more sensitive atmosphere, a more pleasant atmosphere for everyone. So we hope that you will enjoy these 2 days. And let's start now and explore the idea that the Balkan region might be the missing component in the European fashion equation. So next to me is Svetlana Bobova-Jovanovska. She is the founder of Fashion Weekend Skopje and the host of Responsible Fashion Series. She will tell you more about the story of Responsible Fashion Series Skopje, and she will also address the need to accelerate the dynamic in the Balkan fashion ecosystem. So Sveta, welcome.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy to see you online. I'm happy to welcome you today to kick off the Responsible Fashion Series Skopje. I was so glad to meet Professor Ian King at a Fashion Colloquium in Arnhem in 2018. The main topic of that event was searching for the new luxury. Keywords which inspired me a lot from this event: imagination, technology, care, reuse, fairness, no waste. This is what this is new luxury.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yes, it's very interesting.
You know, and after I have just one question: what is our luxury in the Balkan region? And we decided to make research, to make motivation projects, to understand what is the value and understanding regarding the value of responsible fashion and craftsmanship across the Western Balkan. I would like to speak about it today.
Yes, of course, that will be really interesting. Thank you, Sveta, so much. And what do you think? Do you think that is artisanal fashion a form of luxury? Because you mentioned it previously in what you said. Do you think we can define it as a form of luxury?
Because today we will discuss a lot of the topics about responsible future of fashion, responsible fashion, and craftsmanship. Crafts, it's very connected with fashion. I would like to speak about it. I would like to sharing experience and names of our region, great designers, great artisans who working in a responsible fashion. We'll see.
Yes, of course, it will be interesting. The Balkan is rich in heritage, so I think we'll have many interesting stories during these 2 days. So before we continue with the conversation and the rest of the presentations, we will go briefly through the rules. The first rule goes to you.
Yes, please, all our participants, respect the time slots. We have many speakers, and we want to give the same space to all of them to present their ideas.
Yes, also another important rule is that when you notice a raised yellow hand on your screens, it means you have only 2 minutes left of your presentation. It's really important to respect the time slot. And if you surpass those 10 minutes, I will alert you and I will ask you to wrap up your session and finalize your presentation.
Please don't forget to mute your mics. It applies to all of the guest speakers.
Of course. And this is not a rule, but just an information for everyone. After each session, there will be a Q&A section of 5 minutes. So please write your comments and your questions in the chat box. So depending on the time left, the team will choose a question that will be directly addressed from the speaker. As for the rest of the questions, they will be answered in the chat box by the guest speakers. And I think that's it for the rules, right?
Yes, let's start.
Okay, so now I invite Professor Ian King to take the virtual floor, as he is the thought leader behind Fashion Colloquia and Responsible Fashion Series as its continuation. Also, he's a professor of aesthetics and management at the Institute of Marangoni and a visiting professor at universities in Belgium, UK, USA. Professor King, we will be delighted to hear more about your involvement in the fashion domain and the motivation to ignite changes through Fashion Colloquia and Responsible Fashion Series. So welcome, Professor King.
Good morning. Hi. Hello, everyone.
Morning.
It's nice to be here. I'm speaking to you from a very beautiful part of France. It's sunshine here, so I hope the weather is as good with you as it is with me today. Let me start by saying you've introduced who I am, so I don't need to do that. So let me tell you about the origins of the Responsible Fashion Series. It started nearly 10 years ago now, in conjunction with the London College of Fashion, the Domus Academy in Milan, IFM, Institute de la Mode in Paris, and Parsons in New York. And we set up these events to be part of the respective Big Four fashion weeks. So very much at that time, we were trying to make sense. You know, fashion studies at that time was quite young, and therefore we wanted to make sense of what we were doing, how it was developing across the world. And after those 4 events, I must admit, we thought that would finish. That would be just the 4 big events, and that would be it. But there was such a interest and a lot of people who showed kind of asking for it to continue, that we decided to continue and look at fashion weeks in other parts of the world. So for the next 5 or 6 years, we looked at approximately 10 other locations, and as far away as Shanghai, Arnhem, as Sveta spoke about beforehand, Ho Chi Minh in Vietnam, Sao Paulo, Rome. I mean, we've been most parts of the world, so that was really exciting, and it was a very exciting period for fashion and its growth, and people realized how much potential there was across the world. But around 2 or 3 years ago, there was more of a question mark about its future, and really about the damage it was doing to the environment, and you know, we were questioning really about whether we should be supporting such an emerging location, or whether in fact we should be looking at it in a much different way. So I think we started then to decide that we would look at fashion in a much more responsible way. And this, someone's got the mic open, so this created the situation that we wanted to look at responsible fashion. The first one we had in Jaipur in India as part of the Jaipur Literature Festival, and it was successful, and we have this one here now after the pandemic, and another one in Antwerp, which Annex Grammar will talk about later on. So that's it in a nutshell. So it's very nice to be here, and I'm really looking forward to the discussion over the next 2 days. Thank you.
Thank you so much for explaining a bit further the Responsible Fashion Series. And please stay here, don't go away, because now we're continuing with the conversation. And today we will be joined with Professor Anik Scrummy and Professor Gordana Vrencoska. And before we proceed, let me introduce both guest speakers. Professor Scrummy comes from the University of Antwerp. She's the academic director of the Master of Cultural Management, an international master in fashion management, and an ambassador of the European Network on Cultural Management and Policy. And Professor Vrencoska is an artist, designer, and educator. She's the Dean of the Faculty of Arts and Design at the European University in Skopje. So welcome both. I hope you can hear me. And we are glad that we have you here with us today. So Professor King, I will start with you. The first question goes to you. Through Fashion Colloquia and Responsible Fashion Series, you tend to create synergies between various players in the fashion field, highlighting the importance of education. Can you elaborate on how important are educational institutions in sparking transformation in the fashion industry globally, but also with focus in the Balkans?
Thank you. It's a very good question. Did you want that question to me?
Yes.
Sorry. I think, to be honest, educational institutions have a responsibility. They have a responsibility in terms of educating both people inside the industry who are in part of the industry now, but particularly in helping young people understand the responsibilities that they have when they join the industry. This is not an industry that, in fact, is without damage. You know, we know it's the second most polluting industry in the world. So let's get that out of the way first. And we also need to understand that that pollution, okay, is not necessarily just at the end or the beginning. It's the whole way through the whole process, right from the actual initial production, right through to the consumerism, right through to the wearing and the washing, and also the disposal. So there's a huge range of responsibility that goes right throughout this. So we cannot ignore that. So our series tries to explore and how we can improve that situation. We saw last summer in the G7 discussions with the ministers across the big economies that they recognized that fashion itself can turn a corner. So the industry was showing their desire to change, but what we also need to realize is the education institutions need to continue that, because if I'm honest, the commercial organizations have their own agenda. They want to make money. You know, they're not here for a charity. They're not here for other reasons. They want to make money. So we have to be there and realize that these commercial organizations will only go so far. And I think, therefore, educational institutions have to go further and they have to lead the way. Well, they need to understand the value systems that we need to introduce from the beginning. And that value system needs to come from us and you and other people like this in educational systems so that we actually maintain and invest in the future. So it's not about exploitation, as we talked about fashion in the past. It's now about investment. Thank you.
In this, I also believe that academic institutions are really important when we think about changes and transformation in the fashion system. But do you think that they're sufficient in creating an omnipresent narrative? Also, the designers are very important. The media is equally important. How we actually perceive, how we get the information, and the collaboration between these segments is crucial for creating unique values in fashion. In your view, how can we strengthen this significant union between all the actors in the fashion field?
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, the relationship between the academia, the institutions, the industry itself, the media, and other actors, other stakeholders itself needs to be invested in. Because this is not a responsibility of just one group. It's the responsibility of everyone to take this initiative forward, and not so just talking about it in terms of theory, but talk about it in terms of practice and actually investing in this practice at this time. So do I think there's an omnipresent? Absolutely, yes. But I think we've got to realize that omnipresent does not allow us to escape their responsibility. It actually puts the spotlight on us rather than put on anyone else. So we need to appreciate that responsibility comes from each and every one of us. It comes from each and every one of us every time we buy something, and we're all consumers. You know, we need to understand what we buy. We need to know the story of what we're buying. We need to know the responsibility of how much we're buying, where we're storing it. We need to understand the responsibility every time we wash it, and what happens to when we wash our clothes in our washing machines and other kinds of things. We also need to understand that when we don't wear things anymore, we don't leave it in the wardrobe lying there unused. We look at how we can recycle it. We look at how it can be used again for other people. And then afterwards, when it's finished its life, we look at its disposable, and we look about how we then can actually look at it in a more responsible way to dispose things in a way that actually does not add to the waste mountains that are now escalating across the world. So
thank you. So basically, it's about responsibility in each moment, every day, and
every day. Yes, absolutely.
And of course, collaboration is so important. It's an important ingredient in order to have these changes and to make a visible impact. Of course, thank you so much. Now I'm moving to Professor Anik Shwami. You are an expert in management and policy of creative and cultural industries, in particular in fashion management. To contribute towards a responsible future, we've been talking about it a lot now. In your expertise, how important is the dynamic communication between academia, the practitioners in the creative industries, and the cultural institutions?
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very happy to be part of this conversation. And yes, indeed, from Antwerp, in the center of Europe, we developed a master in fashion management, but actually we are known for our fashion designers. So the academy is much more known than our master program in management. But it's about the collaboration, and that's also what I want to say about as a response to your answer. I think it's really important that academia, because of course, art schools exist already for a long while. In Antwerp, it is now the Academy of Fine Arts exists for 360 years already, and the Fashion Academy for 60 years. But besides that, you have the other research into fashion, and I think from an interdisciplinary perspective. And that's really, I think, one of the exciting things about fashion, that it is really something that you can research from this interdisciplinary perspective. And the research in fashion is quite young, you could say, if you compare to other disciplines. So I think now that we see that the research is really increasing, and this research is really not only for the research, but it is also to support the sector and to give more insight. And in this way, I think academia can really strengthen also the creatives and the industry by giving more insights into the working of the system. And the more knowledge you have, the better you are equipped to change the system. So I think this collaboration is really crucial. That's also what ENCAT, so this European network of cultural management and cultural policy education, is doing, making this bridge between education, between practitioners, and between policymakers and the industry. And as Ian King said already, it's by collaborating that we can also make a difference and can improve things. So therefore, I think this interaction between the different sectors is really important.
Extensive answer. Thank you very much. I also believe that fashion research is really important when you think about changes and transformation in the fashion industry. And thank you again. So my next question goes to Professor Gordana Vrencovska. Welcome. How relevant are the open debates between the actors in the creative industries in the Balkans in order to create productive collaboration, positive communication, and a responsible community? And what else is equally important in your view?
Hi, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here today with you, and thank you for your invitation. Well, I think that open debates are really, really important for creating that sense of community in the first place and for a shared responsibility.
Dana, I will just interrupt. Can you move a bit further from the camera? A bit further so we can see you. Because now it's really zoomed a bit further.
Like this?
Now it's blocked. It's okay? Okay, perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Okay, yeah, so I think that open debates are really important for creating that sense of community and the shared responsibility between, you know, all the factors on the Balkans. In 2007, at a creative collaboration conference in Istanbul, I managed to gather people from all the Balkan countries discussing design leadership and design education. And actually it was, for me, a first time to get together with people from this, you know, creative industries area and to discuss our problems, to discuss, you know, our issues and what can we do to, you know, improve and develop the design discipline on the Balkans. You cannot imagine how many collaborations and projects and initiatives came out of this one single meeting once we got to know each other. So I think that we need more regional events and we need more conferences and more research projects and startup ventures. We also need more frequent exchange of information and case studies. We are here on this small region, you know, if we are talking in a global context, but I think that we don't know each other that well. So we need to communicate a bit more and share more information and collaboration.
We are talking about collaboration. It seems to be the key topic today, that collaboration is so important in each sense of the word. And now my next question is for Professor Annick Scrummy again. In a time of disruption, it is imperative to make changes and initiate strong communities in the fashion domain, where crafts are an inseparable part. This October, you will organize the next edition of Responsible Fashion Series in Antwerp, highlighting the importance of innovative thinking. Can you tell us a bit more about the upcoming edition and how it will echo the assumption that fashion can actually change the world? Professor Scrummy, are you with us? We have some technical difficulty, I think. Is it?
No, sorry. I simply had to unmute my micro. So
okay.
Yeah, I heard you, of course. And indeed, it's not that fashion can change the world. Fashion will save the world. That's the title. So it's really provocative. And yeah, it's to stimulate the thinking, of course. So because changing it's gentle, but saving, that's really like, no, we are really, yeah, it's also more activistic. We really want to change it. And I think fashion can't do that alone. As Ian King said already, it's a question also of different sectors. But compared to other sectors, I think fashion has a huge impact economically, socially, but also on the artistic side. And so therefore also we want to reflect on what is the position of the creator, of the artist, because in many places the system is using them, but it's not valuing them. So, and what is the place of the creator in the future also? And creativity, how does it works nowadays and in the future, more through collaboration also, the creativity through collaboration between different artistic domains. That's also one of the topics that we will discuss. And then the link to innovation, that's also a very interesting one, because I think innovation is often only linked to technological innovation. And also for fashion, technological innovation is important, but we have to link it to the craftsmanship. We have to link it also to a real creative thinking, because if Antwerp has a high reputation in the field of fashion, it is because there was a generation in the 80s who was really strong in this creative conceptual thinking. So and to look ahead and to have really a strong personal vision on what fashion is, and not defined by the industry and by commerciality, but really start from your own artistic vision and to be consistent. And that's really difficult nowadays because it's all about the money, as already been said. But yeah, I think that is something that we want to discuss when you come to Antwerp. And yeah, in each location is different. It's not, you have the global fashion system, but you have also context. And in our context, it's more about this personal vision and creativity, while in other locations, like in India and also in Skopje, it's really this craftsmanship. We have that less in Antwerp. It's more about this conceptual thinking. Because in Western Europe, a lot of the production is also outsourced because of our economic system, and the wages are too high. So, but I like this diversity of the locations. So I think you have to start from the strengths of your own location and then to see how you can move forward.
Thank you very much, Professor Scrummy. I think you actually summarized it really, really good, and that each location has its own distinction and its own richness and its own identity. And of course, for Antwerp, it's more about the independent design and creating interesting creative concepts. And actually, yesterday with Sveta, we discussed about how to integrate innovation and craftsmanship. And I think that will be really interesting, especially for the Balkan region. And now we are touching upon that topic with you. Thank you so much. And my next question is for Professor King. The Balkan region is very rich in heritage, as we mentioned previously, but there is a notion that the young generation is losing interest in integrating modern twist into a traditional design. And I want to ask you, have you experienced similar situations in other countries where you conduct your work and your research? Can you share with us your experience or any positive examples of the approach towards this challenge? Because for us, actually, this challenge is really, really big, and we want to find some sort of a solution. And also, what do you think is missing to emphasize the Balkan countries' identities through fashion and craft?
Okay. I think it's really important that people in the Balkans realize what they have. And I think that is really one of the most important priorities. The second thing is that we've talked about it is this notion of cooperation. How do people in the Balkans cooperate? What kind of infrastructure exists for the Balkan regions from the authorities? You know, what kind of support mechanisms are from the government? Maybe there will be a possibility to have incentive schemes to get people to start to work together. So it's really important to realize that infrastructure needs to be in place in order for the industry to actually be established and then to grow. Now, the Balkans itself is unlike in lots of other parts of the world. You know, they are concerned about whether, in fact, they seem to want to kind of have their own identity, but at the same time, they want to kind of join in with the West and other parts of the Western world. Now, there's a danger to that, because quite honestly, if everyone thinks that the Western perspective to fashion is the answer, I'm afraid that they're mistaken. It is not like that at all. You know, what we're seeing at the present time is a move away from the West to the East, if anything. We're seeing China becoming more and more dominant. Now, do we see the world becoming dominated by the Chinese, in a sense, in terms of fashion? I'm not sure we do. But I think what we will see is an increasingly realization that fashion has to become much more multinational. And we also have to recognize that it can, in fact, open up new opportunities. So I would say that Balkans, if you will have a really strong belief in who you are in terms of your identity, then you need to understand what that is. And then you look at what you can do, because what they want in the West is not all the same. They don't want the same fashion as everyone else. You know, fast fashion has got a limited life. There is a question mark about its future. And what we're seeing through the pandemic and the advent of digitalization is a realization that people, consumers, are changing their buying habits. And we're seeing people now buying things in different ways. Young millennials now are saying quite categorically they don't want to buy all the same. So this is an opportunity for places like the Balkans to actually say, okay, let's offer them something different. That's establish who we are, what we do, and what we do really well. Now, you're saying to me craftsmanship is really important. Okay, invest in craftsmanship. You know, look at how that craftsmanship can be invested, not necessarily just in the short term, but in the medium term to long term. And that doesn't necessarily start overnight. It could take 1, 2, 3, or even 5 years to actually establish a good foundation where craftsmanship is recognized and supported in that region. And then you can build for the future. But it's not a short-term fix. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Maybe this situation currently and this disruptive situation we are actually witnessing will make an opportunity for the Balkans to move forward. Maybe we can be the next destination in the European global or in the global fashion system actually. Maybe Balkans can become really recognizable in terms of this craftsmanship and how it can be integrated with a modern twist. And related to what you said, my next question goes to Professor Verdana Verencovska. So we have just mentioned the rich heritage of the Balkan region and the lack of an innovative approach towards exploiting our tradition to build a distinctive visual identity. You are an artist, designer, and an educator, and as such, what would you say is absent in the context, and what can be done in this moment so that we can change the narrative and take the next step forward?
Well, you know, tradition is the way of sharing cultural values between generations. But that bridge between the generations on the Balkans has been seriously damaged since that traditional way of living, you know, with its craft, techniques, art, and clothes is no longer really present. We must mention that after the Second World War, the socialist project wanted everybody to be modern. You know, everybody to work in factories and live in apartment blocks. So that traditional way of life is no longer present. So young people are actually not really in touch with those traditions from before. For example, my grandparents, they used to live in a village. They lived 100% sustainable and organic, producing their own wool, their own cotton, even they produced silk. They produced their own clothes, carpets, towels, everything, you know, for the household. So my mother actually transferred some of that knowledge and skills to me. And that's why I became interested in fashion. That's why I became a designer, you know. And I'm not interested in physics or medicine. It's, you know, the tradition that was actually transferred through generations. So I think that we need to generate a new interest in the younger generation through, you know, new connections, new generational stories, especially through educations, through workshops, more events, but in a way that is relative, you know, to this younger generation and to their own beliefs, and of course using new technology, innovation, and new media.
Francisca, it's that transfer of knowledge. I think it's so important, and that's the best way to build a recognizable fashion identity and be the creative that kind of integrates various elements from the heritage as well. And my next question is for Professor Onyx Cromie again. When I was preparing the questions for this conversation, I saw the information about the reopening of the Antwerp Fashion Museum, MOMU, this autumn, which makes me really happy. And I believe it will reinvigorate the concept of and the perception of Antwerp as a fashion capital. I think that Antwerp is an excellent example of how creativity, innovation, and uniqueness can create a globally recognizable story. And I just want to ask you, in your view, is there a way for some of the Balkan cities to capture Antwerp's successful story and reconstruct it in order to transform their distinctive heritage and build an innovative fashion story? Do you think we can find some connection, although Antwerp's identity is different than the one in the Balkan cities, but just to grasp a bit of the success of the Antwerp story?
Yeah, asking the question is also answering the question, because indeed, so it is not about a success formula that can be copied. It's starting from your own strengths and your own history and heritage, and that's different from each location. But if I could say something, is about to have this strong vision and also this conversation. You have to build a story about your location, but it must be credible. So it must be indeed based on what your strengths are. It's not just marketing. It is a strong story, but you need to also to have a story, I think. It's important for the local community, but also for the outside world. Yeah, and also in Antwerp, when this generation of the Antwerp Six, as we call them, became successful, it was not part of a well overthought strategy. It was more like, they started from their ambitions and from their strong vision, and they had no money. But because they had no money, for example, they used public spaces for their fashion shows. Nowadays, everybody is doing that. But in the 80s, it was very new, because normally the fashion shows was in the big palaces and big rich places. The Japanese designers did that as well. So it was a bit, there was a kind of a similarity. Very interesting to see that. But so that was, that's just one example. And they had also no money, but because they kept going on and following their own vision, that they became successful. And even now, their name is even more successful than it was in that time. And so that's maybe something that I could say, have a vision and try to build on that. But first the vision, and then the strategy and how you do it.
Thank you so much. I think it's very inspiring what you said, and I hope the audience can reflect on what you said, and maybe they will find their way of how to build a successful fashion story coming from the Balkans. And my last question for this conversation section goes to Professor Gordana Vrinceska. Overseeing the Balkan intersection of education, culture, and employment, when we will be ready to diversify, make an impact, and put the Balkan on the global fashion map? I know it's a hard question, but just maybe to hear something enthusiastic, right?
Yes, it is. It's a very complex region, I must say. Well, first of all, I think we need to be sensible enough to overcome the political and the economical differences and focus more on our creative similarities. I think that we need to work together and share a more united front for this global conquest. We need branding, and as Professor King said, we need our governments to invest more in design education, to invest more in fashion, in infrastructure, to invest more in education, in this area. So first of all, we need a more solid infrastructure for the creative industries in general. If we need to, if we want to put this region on the global fashion map. And as I said before, we need to, start collaborating and communicating more.
Professor Vrinceska. Now I see the time. The time flies really fast when the conversation is so interesting, like the one we had. I'm really happy of everything that we heard, and I hope that the audience is really interested in what you all said. And I think it's amazing to start this webinar with this interesting conversation. Thank you so much to all the speakers. Now just let me check if we have an interesting question from the audience. As you know, we depend on technology now. Do we have questions? Comments on it? Okay. Then I will have just one last question for you. It's a general question for all of you. So can you foresee systematic changes in the global fashion ecosystem, bearing in mind the current disruptive situation and the urge for instant changes? It's not just the pandemic, but also the technology and everything that is going on in the same time. And we hear about sustainability all the time and eco solutions. Do you think, can you foresee some systematic changes in the fashion system as we currently know it?
If I may, if I can just add something there to go on this.
Please do that. Thank you.
And let me just say that there are, in Central Asia and certain parts of Europe, Eastern Europe now, the governments are listening. You know, I have, you know, we're organising a further responsible fashion event in Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan in April 2022. And as part of that infrastructure and support of it, I'm actually speaking with the Prime Minister's office on Monday in Kazakhstan, because what they're doing, they're actually saying that the future of the creative industries is actually the future of this region, the future of Central Asia. So this kind of investment is already taking place. So the Balkans need to take notice of this. They need to note that other places in not that far away from you are now already moving forward. So the Balkans need to actually move forward as well. So that kind of message should come through. And if anything comes from this event, then that message should be taken forward, that other places are going forward. So if you want to invest in fashion, the creative industries in the Balkans, the time to do it is now.
Thank you very much, Professor King. So I think we can wrap up the conversation session. I think it's really important what you said. Okay, we have another comment from Professor Anik Scrummy.
Yeah, I just wanted to reinforce what In King has been saying. I think it's not a question of do we have the choice. I think there is no other choice if we want to move forward. And the awareness in Europe is quite big around that, I think. Certainly from the schools and from the industry, but indeed the awareness from the consumers is still, there's still a lot of work to do, I think, because when people buy clothes, there is always this attitude of consumerism. And in some parts of the world, this is only starting. So I think we need to find a way to find also to make it the industry more sustainable and circular, but also in a positive way. So not only by a negative message as a kind of limitation, but that we can do it in an integrated way, so that also the mass is included, because otherwise it is a discussion between a small group of people, and the challenge is to really change the system, and that is also about the numbers and the scale. So there is a big challenge, I think, for the future. Yeah.
Now I see a question from Leila. Leila, welcome.
Hi, it's more explanation rather than a question. I'm in this sector for 26 years in we as country, you know, the country which doesn't understand social responsibility, social enterprise, fair trade. Fair trade is an anonymous word in Bosnia. So I think raising awareness, not only among producers, but also among consumers and authorities, will, you know, bring us to the final goal. We have to educate all of them, make them producers doing zero waste production, consumers buying what they need to buy. That's why we have a slogan, shopping with purpose, explaining people that, you know, purchasing at BH Crafts, it's not only, you know, that you buy a sweater you like, but you also help the name, the woman whose name is written on the hang tag to earn money for living. And, you know, added value is that we are guaranteed fair trade producer. But, you know, in this chain, authorities in my country are still, you know, deaf and blind for all kinds of suggestions. So I hope really this will change. That's
So
it.
much for the comment, Leila. I think it's very important to hear from a professional that actually works in the region and know all the challenges and difficulties that you're facing on a daily basis. Thank you so much again to everyone, especially to the speakers. And I would just ask Ian, Anik, and Gordana to check the chat box and if we have additional questions or comments afterwards. Thank you so much. And I think now it's time to move to the next session. Do you want to continue directly or should we take a 5 minutes break? Okay, so now we have a 5 minutes break. Thank you very much. We are looking forward to continue with the next session.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
So welcome to the second session. We have a lineup of 3 very interesting speakers. And now we start with the presentations. The first one for today, Dr. Kristen Scott, are you here?
Yes.
Okay, hi. So you're the program leader for postgraduate fashion courses at Instituto Marangoni in London. And Dr. Scott, you will speak about designing cross-cultural narratives. It's a collaborative project between Instituto Marangoni London and Partenia Zografski School Skopje. So welcome, Dr. Scott, and please take the virtual floor. We are eager to hear your presentation.
Oh, thank you. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you for inviting me to present this incredible project that our students have been working on in collaboration with the Partenia Zografski tutors and students in Macedonia. This is a project where we had several questions that we wanted to explore through this collaborative project, such as how do students from different international backgrounds understand and interpret Macedonian culture? Our students at Marangoni are very international. They come from really all over the world, very few UK students actually. So it was really an interesting catalyst for students to really look at the incredible crafts of another culture with different eyes, with their cultural baggage, I suppose, for want of a better word, with their cultural lenses, let's say, a better way of presenting it. And how might we interpret, research, interpret the culture of another without just taking it and applying it in a very superficial way, which we see too much of in the fashion industry. So there were various sort of questions we're unpacking through that, and the various challenges around communication, interpretation, appropriation, and what benefits might this be to the young people from the school in Macedonia that we were working with, and for my own students in London. So there were a series of activities that took place for this project. So initially meetings to define the scope of the project, what we hope to get from it for our various parties, learn from it, brainstorming project briefs with the tutor teams in London, and a project briefing. We have students from MA Fashion Design Women's Wear working on it, MA Luxury Accessory Design, and BA Product Design. So it's different students, different levels, different experiences, and different nationalities, as well, of course, as your students in Macedonia. And I think what was really important in the project was the sharing of experience and knowledge. This took place during lockdown in the UK, so our students were, some of them were in the UK, some of them all over the world, in their home countries. So accessing information about traditional Macedonian crafts, which was central to this project, was quite challenging. So Sveta and the team in Macedonia were very kind in sharing information, sharing videos, and I'm going to unpack this a bit more as we go on. We had one of our tutors, Janet Sartor, did a workshop for the Macedonian students using a sort of quite playful collage technique, which I'll talk about more in a moment. And there was a practice-led exploration and interpretation of Macedonian cultural crafts by our students in London. And I think also for the students in Macedonia, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the outcomes, because I've seen my students' outcomes now, but I haven't seen the Macedonian ones, and that'll be really exciting. And we did some questionnaires at the end just to sort of understand the student perception of the project. So we sent questionnaires to the students in London on the 3 programs and the students in Macedonia to sort of compare their experience of the project, what they gained from it, challenges, etc. The project brief was to explore Macedonian cultural crafts and heritage, but also alongside that to introduce a personal narrative of some sort. So how do you find that balance between your own story, your own concept that you want to tell through design, and working with what is in effect the cultural property of others as well? Or for the Macedonian students, it was their own cultural property. So in Macedonia, there was the museum trip for the students, which we had the video of this shared with us. It was really interesting to see, and the images of them going around and learning more about their own cultural crafts. And my students gained a lot from that as well. And images of different kinds of crafts in Macedonia, and more of the students, certainly the fashion students, and maybe this was quite obvious, were particularly taken with the costume heritage and the incredible embroidery and embellishment, and also the silhouettes and the cutting, you know, those sort of ancient zero waste kind of pattern cutting techniques that constructed garments with narrow looms historically. So these were some of the things that immediately captured their imagination. The fashion design workshop that Janet did was looking at modernising traditional garments. So she used, I need to just move that little screen thing. She used a collage technique with juxtaposition of modern images, contemporary fashion, images that the students brought of family members wearing local clothing, so perhaps more historic ideally. She was hoping they'd bring images of old photographs of traditional Macedonian costume as well. And you can see in the image at the bottom there, there's a little collaging technique going on, which immediately creates something quite accessible, but playful and fun and imaginative. So the students did that. There is a video, but I'm not going to show that unless there's time later on. Oops, no, I'm not going to show it. There we go. So I'm going to give you some examples of outcomes now from the project, and with each one we've analysed what did they look at, what did they take from Macedonian cultural crafts, and where was their own narrative in it. This was, I think, a particularly successful one where Hyunju Kim, who's from South Korea, was looking at, her concept was, I'm perfectly ready, the idea that from the waist up, we all look presentable on Zoom. We need to dress up at the top, but underneath anything can be happening, and we can be really comfortable, or we can be, I don't know, sexier or whatever. So it was quite a fun concept. But then she was taking details from Macedonian crafts, such the incredible sort of detail in stitching, in sort of concentric or parallel lines you see in the little waistcoats in the image above, and some shapes, the volumes, silhouettes developed from the cutting technique. So she was exploring that, now how to stay home looking smart on Zoom from the waist up. And there was some silhouette exploration from Macedonian traditional costume. You can see the bottom in the middle, how she's really analysed. And there were many pages of this. This is just the highlights. There was fashion and textile exploration using waste fabrics, colour inspiration using natural dyes, some of which are culturally significant in Macedonia, like pomegranate and red onion. And then this was her collection lineup, bottom right. And you can see some references in the silhouette, but it's not too literal. And this was our fear, that they would just be taking embroidery and plonking it on designs. So she took it in an interesting direction. Jing Kong from China She took patterns and motifs from Macedonian culture. She was inspired by the changing border of Macedonia through time, and also some clothing worn for wedding ceremonies. And she looked at the concept of time travel, of blurring boundaries, blurring time, impressions blurring over time. She developed a print from Macedonian textiles that she a sort of repeat print, and then she had the sort of misting of transparent garments over the top. What was that? This one, layering bodices, embroidery. Some of them, it was more obvious than others where the ideas came from, I have to say. This one, you can see the waistcoat on the far right. There's something of that layering that you find in some traditional Macedonian costume. She was also very taken by the use of red. She was looking at the concept of restriction in childhood, and sort of, were quite an important motif and silhouette forming research for her. This student was looking, and she was an accessory design student. She found shapes in Macedonian embroidery and art and used that in her embellishment, surface embellishment. But the collection was actually an homage to her father, who was a yachtsman and had died. And so she sort of dedicated the collection to him. And, you know, you can see her research into some of the shapes in Macedonian architecture, in decorative friezes and so on, that she evolved into shapes for bags, but she also introduced yachting details. And there's a sample bag at the end that you can see. And yeah, the pair of them on Luxury Accessory, very obsessed with their parents. So Siddhant from India, he dedicated this collection to his mother, who and he mind mapped her, this strong, experimental, intelligent, scary, even teacher, supportive, etc. He was very taken by the leather work in Macedonia, the weaving techniques, and the traditional slow craft processes that he wanted to bring into contemporary accessory design. And those are his range at the end there. Yeah, you can see a bit of his research and analysis, his work with texture, with manipulations, embroidery, the idea of being rooted in tradition, explored quite literally here, with the roots going into and wrapped around the foot, and then the collection development at the end. And then in product design, this young guy from Morocco, Gali, was interested in Macedonian street art and also Alexander the Great, and he was speculating about what his last words might have been and created an artwork based on that. He was looking at a Macedonian artist, Zarko Bashevsky, excuse my pronunciation, and he was designing an alternative stool for an artist to sit on, an alternative way of sitting, and introduced his own artwork to that product. Ooh, something weird's happened with my positioning here. Okay, Derin from Turkey was very conscious. Actually, she's one of the ones who was very aware of Macedonian cultural crafts. She was interested in the amount of Turkish coffee that's drunk in Macedonia. So she wanted to, in Turkey they do fortune telling with coffee grounds, and she thought that she could create, you know, a range of cups for coffee shops. Also an app for young coffee drinkers to identify the meaning of their coffee grounds in the bottom of the cup. So there's various patterns and colours that she found in Macedonian pottery that she found inspiring. And Skylar Hamilton from the USA, as I say, I think we've got someone from pretty much every country represented in Macedonia here. In this project here, I mean. she was looking at Macedonian textiles and the motifs in them, and she was developing a shape for a chair that would be made from built-up layers of fabric waste from the garment industry in Macedonia using epoxy resin, I think, and that being polished and polished into quite a refined product in the end. And she made a little prototype thing. So our survey showed that most of our students didn't know about Macedonian crafts and culture before the project, but they really enjoyed getting to know about it. And it really opened their minds to the amazing craft traditions that we can find all over the world. So it sort of woke them up a little bit from their own culture, their own cultural crafts that they were aware of. And some found it helpful to introduce a personal narrative, others struggled with it a little bit in the design process. With the Macedonian students, some of them knew something about their cultural crafts, but they gained a sort of new appreciation for them. And something I've heard with my own research is a lot around traditional crafts and what does modernity look like, that kind of thing. And something I've found, and this seems to confirm it, is that often when people from outside of your culture or outside of your country look at your cultural crafts and appreciate them and work with them, their status rises within the home country a little bit, or there's a sort of renewed interest in them in the home country. So they seem to, I didn't realize we had this. This is so interesting, and inspiring for them. Most of them had no sort of foreknowledge of British design approaches and enjoyed that sort of playful juxtaposition, contrast of different elements. They enjoyed the making process afterwards in particular, and again, learning a new approach to the design process. So circling back to our research questions, how do research students from diverse international backgrounds understand and interpret Macedonian culture through design while operating remotely from the UK, in lockdown, I should add, though some were in their home countries? And I think the sharing of materials and references from Macedonia were very, very helpful. So thank you, Sveta and Yelena and the team for these resources, which were really invaluable and much appreciated by our students. And I think the sharing back of I hope the students found that useful too. How might cross-cultural narratives be formed? I think the mixing of cultural references in unexpected ways, craft, costume, history, fashion, etc. is quite.
Dr. Scott, can you hear me?
Hello?
Can you hear me? Okay. I just want to, I'm sorry, but I need to tell you that we need to wrap up and finalize the session because we already surpassed the 10 minutes.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Okay.
No problem.
So, yeah, these were just some quotes at the end from some of the students, just to finalize. I think really nice one from Macedonian students. I realized that we have a really great cultural heritage, and my students, I learned a new craft to make during the project, and I found out there are amazing cultures that I can get inspired from, and also it affects me to think that I should learn more and expand my cultural limit. So I think there were benefits on both sides, always open to review, but overall quite successful. So thank you very much.
So to start for this thought-provoking and visually enticing presentation, I especially liked the collaboration between the Korean designer and the Korean designer and his inspiration from the Macedonian heritage. Thank you so much. I just want to invite the audience again and to remind you to please write and share your comments and questions in the chat box. And now we are moving on again to Svetlana, who is the host of Responsible Fashion Series. And now it's the time to see her interesting presentation and the mentoring project, as well as a virtual exhibition titled Responsible Future. So let us hear more.
Hello everyone. Briefly about our project. Macedonian Fashion Association welcomes you to the Responsible Future, a researching and mentoring project designed for the students with hearing disabilities from the State School Center Partini Zagravski Skopje in the fields of inclusion, crafts, and fashion. We believe that research through design, traditions, and creative practice leads to new insights. Over the last 6 months, about 30 young adults, guided by a plethora of mentors, professors, and university interns from diverse creative industries, collectively investigated how to juxtapose craft and fashion references with personal preferences. Drawing inspiration from the cultural heritage of our past, we inspire to develop the innovators of our future through a series of knowledge and skills building workshops. The modern vocational program enriches their curriculum for seeking employment and maximizing potential with a desired profession. The project included different stages. First, motivation. While preparing for the project Responsible Future, our team was traveling across the country, meeting and speaking with amazing artisans. What we discussed with them all was one crucial question: how can we motivate and inspire young generations to work in our craftsmanship? Inspiration. The guided visit with sign languages translator provided all students with a rich educational environment, a dynamic opportunity to explore their own curiosities, ideas, and perspectives. Workshops. The vocational fashion training vision project aims to provide young adults a wide range of opportunities for personal and professional self-realization. In collaboration with Art and Design School Instituto Marangoni, London, the students took part in an interactive online workshop. The students were challenged to modernize traditional garments and cultural heritage through collage techniques, merging the old and the new. Guided by the insightful and inspiring team members of Open Style Lab New York, a non-profit organization committed to making style accessible for everyone regardless of their cognitive and physical abilities, the students took the stage during the interactive online workshop. The fashion workshops were mentored by designer Irina Tosheva and school professor Lyubisha Savevsky. The final results of all the processes that the participants went through is a joint capsule fashion collection with sustainable design, which is contemporary interpretation of the Macedonian folk costumes. The collections consist of 5 final looks, which obviously intend for a young target group. As you can see, each outfit has traditional Macedonian name. Sirma, fashion look number 1, is in the form of a dress constructed of used rectangular fabrics made from various pieces of textile waste. The weaving technique is inspired by traditional women's apron. Bogatin, fashion look number 2, is a sophisticated combination of grey corset pants and the unusual silver bolero. The bolero combines shoulder straps, circularly woven from textile scraps, and richly decorated collar with silver coins imitations. The shoulder straps are inspired by the belt buckles, which are the most striking and characteristic elements of women's costume jewelry. Silian, fashion look number 3, consists of knitted tunic, pants, and headdress. The tunic is completely decorated with tassels made of scraps of materials and wool. It is recognizable that inspiration was drawn from the Marivo woman's costume, which abounds in red tassels. Rumena, traditional men dress outfit with neo-punk twist. Fashion look number 4 consists of a short, a planted skirt, pants, and a head ornament, and combines elements of women's and men's folk costume. Luba, fashion look number 5 consists of a woman's dress with ruffles and earrings made of small knitted lace pieces, mille. The earrings were inspired from one of the results Marangoni Neocraft Collage workshop. New challenge. The contemporary ceramics workshops were mentored by well-known architect ceramicist and poetess Aneta Popova. The students created individual clay products grouped in sets. The terracotta tiles in turn are fragments of traditional embroidery and ethnomotifs. Through reinterpretation of the ornaments and patterns of everyday life in the past, the tiles got their own and original graphic expression. Mastering the pottery wheel. The traditional pottery workshops were mentored by Slobodan Stolevsky, the greatest master in our country. The students gained a real wealth of knowledge and skills in this old craft, which has existed for thousands of years. Woodworking with good culture. Reinventing tradition. Exploring the creation of new meaning through forms and symbols involving craft-based design. The modern woodwork workshops were mentored by designer Katerina Trepkovska and engineer Despina Zdravkova. Summary of research. The main objective of this research project was to retell the meaning of crafts as an essential vehicle for education. We explored, mapped, and documented local crafts and cultural heritage, identifying the unique assets of artisans and investigating social enterprises and training programs that benefit students with hearing disabilities. The students, the future artisans professionals, play a key role in taking the first step when it comes to developing alternative, sustainable, and ethical future of fashion and crafts in Macedonia. A renewed sense of the notion and position of crafts will be a crucial element in this process of change. We should preserve centuries old practice and crafts. We should raise awareness of the significance of crafts and their sustained protection. And now, let's enjoy virtual tour exhibition. Has been made possible by the talented students, amazing mentors, supporters, and our project team.
Okay, thank you, Sveta. We see some quite remarkable points in your presentation in the video and very interesting virtual exhibition. I hope you would enjoyed it. And thank you for sharing with us, Sveta. It was a pure virtual enjoyment. I honestly hope that you had the chance to see the virtual exhibition because it is so interesting. And of course, sometimes we have issues because of technical issues because it's still the virtual world we live in. And I think the exhibition was actually appropriate for the time we currently live in. And I really hope you enjoy it. Thank you so much, Sveta. So now we continue with the next presenter for this second session. It's the last speaker. It's Professor Gordana Vrencovska again. You heard her during the first session during the conversation. But for those of you who joined us a bit later, let me reintroduce Professor Vrencovska. She's an artist, designer, and an educator. She's the Dean of the Faculty of Art and Design at the European University in Skopje. And Professor Vrencovska will speak about the design as an opportunity for evolution of the traditions of visual cultural heritage. Welcome again, Professor Vrencovska.
Thank you, and thank you again for your reintroduction. I just want to ask you in the beginning to run the presentation because I'm not able to technically run it from my account.
Gordana, sorry for interrupting. Just one note. Can you just move a bit from the camera, like the previous time, like during the conversation session? Yes, it's much better now.
Like this?
Okay.
Okay.
It's much better now.
Thank you.
We can see the presentation now, right? Okay.
Yes. Okay. Yes. You can run to the third slide. Actually, because yes, we heard the title and Christina introduced me. So I want to say in the beginning that this topic was actually the core of my PhD research, and the research and the PhD thesis was defended in 2016. And the book, which is also titled Macedonian Visual Identity Design as an Opportunity for Evolution of the Traditions of Visual Cultural Heritage, was recently published in Macedonia. You can go next. For the next slide, please. Here I want to begin with an image of a traditional woven carpet or a rug, which is probably 100 years old. And when I see in our traditional crafts and when I see, traditional clothes and other things produced with these crafts, I'm always amazed how they actually look very modern to me. And that's what inspired me to research and to go deep into our traditions and into our cultural heritage and see what we can use and transfer into our modern world and into our contemporary design. And in the next slide, there is this segment from this rug, which is so amazing. I mean, 100 years old, and the shapes and the colors are so modern and so stylized for someone who is, not educated, have no idea about design principles, but yet they were, full of aesthetics, and they were able to produce such aesthetics in that time. Okay, you can go next. Next slide, please. And yes, apart from the rug, I have an example from chemise, embroidered chemise, a female traditional dress from Skopska Crna Gora, which was also, something that amazed me in terms of aesthetics, the cuts, and the technique used in producing these clothes. Okay, so further down, when we talk about visual cultural heritage as an inspiration or as a reference in design and in fashion design, we need to know that there are different types of culture, and we have high culture in art, we have folk culture, folklore and its tradition, subculture and popular culture. So we can basically use these sources as inspiration and use them as a reference in, in contemporary design and fashion design. As I mentioned before, tradition is the key, which is actually important as a way of sharing cultural values between the generations and to create a bridge for a cultural connection in space and time. And in the next slide, we can see how high art, go back. We can see how Yves Saint Laurent used high art and culture as a reference, actually using Piet Mondrian as an inspiration for his autumn-winter collection in 1965. But in the next slide, we will see how the new generation and the students are interpreting his designs and making their own way of, transferring that visual references with their new language and new way of doing designs. So this is a fashion show, a student fashion show from our students from the Faculty of Art and Design, and they used Yves Saint Laurent as an inspiration for their annual fashion show at Fashion Weekend Skopje. And also in the next slide, we will see more of their way of interpreting Yves Saint Laurent and interpreting Piet Mondrian. In the next slide, we will also see how high art and culture can be used as a reference. This example is from Kazimir Maljevic and his unique way of doing art and using costume and designing costumes, and how this reference was used in designing the posters for the Olympics, of Sochi Olympics in 2014. Okay, so that was about high art and culture as a reference. In the next slide, we will see some examples of folklore as a reference. Can you move forward, please? When we use folklore as a reference, it's sometimes can be very complex because the traditional dress is a system, a complex system of culture, region, gender, age, status, and identity marker. So if we only use the visual aesthetics, that can be a bit problematic. And sometimes contemporary designers, like this collection from K to Z from 2015, they were accused of culture appropriation. So it's always tricky when you use folklore as a reference, not from your own tradition, because sometimes you can wrongly, let's say, interpret the symbols that are used in the original clothes. Okay, so the next one, please. Why I actually wanted to explore more, and when you come from a small country and when your identity is, is questioned, you always have this fear of losing your identity or losing your own traditions, because we perceive or we, consider our cultural heritage as a certain identity qualifier or a certain identity marker. So there are other artists and designers that also have this fear of losing their own folklore traditions. In the next slide, we will see how the Turkish Cypriot designer Hüseyin Çağlayan, go back please. Please go back to the, yes, thank you. How he wanted to show that fear of losing the traditional dress and his own cultural heritage in the modern world and in this, global fashion that is overtaking the fashion world. In the next slide, there is an example of the Palestinian artist Mona Hatoum, who used traditional ornaments from different regions from Palestine in her own installations, also to preserve this knowledge, to preserve this aesthetics, because we know what is happening in Palestine, and these people, losing their land and losing their traditions as well. And in the last example, in the next slide, please, we have the art of Faik Ahmed, who comes from Azerbaijan, and he is using the traditional carpets and the traditional ornaments used in carpets to show that tradition is actually melting in the global world and is in a way losing itself. So with his art pieces and art installations, he wants to refer to that fear of losing our traditions. Okay, so we're moving forward. So please go next. The loss of folklore traditions in the Balkans. I mentioned before in the beginning of this seminar that after the Second World War, we became this process of industrialization and urbanization, and there was this mass migration from villages to towns. And because of that, there was a major change in the way of living. The villages became empty. We had this loss of culture and folk traditions. So having in mind that, I also wanted to preserve and to do something about it, to preserve the traditions of my own family, to contribute to the preservations of traditions in our own country. So this is an example of the traditional wedding rug of my grandmother, which is coming from the village of Razlovci on the left side, and how I started to interpret this design into my modern way of thinking. So that was my Macedonian folklore project, which was actually, in a way, a start of, doing my research and doing my art. When I started to explore our own traditions. Okay, so moving next, I want to show some examples. I think you already know these examples from folklore traditions in contemporary design from around the world. We can go quickly through them. So in the next slides, please go next. We see the Scottish tartan and the national costume of Scotland. And in the next slides, how this tartan is actually a part of our contemporary fashion design and contemporary fashion culture, through costumes, to couture, to streetwear in the next slides. And it's becoming a fashion, item and ornament which is used all around the world. It comes from Scotland, but is used all around the world. And it's also used in packaging design and as a marketing tool for selling different products from Scotland. In the next example, it's coming from Norway. It's about the Norwegian national costume and how they use it as a symbol of national identity, but also as an element in their contemporary fashion design. Sorry. We will also see on the next slide another example of how this tradition is used in contemporary Norwegian design. it's interesting to know that the Norwegian national costume called bunad, we will see on the next slide, is very popular in Norway. It's more popular than ever. And actually, it's 2 out of 3 Norwegian women who own a national costume. They wear it on celebrations, they wear it on festivals, on different events, and they are very proud of their own heritage and wearing the national costume. Another example we will see on the next slide. It's again the Olympics, the Winter Olympics held in Russia in 2014, when they used different Russian folk motifs from all the regions to create the visual identity of the games. And in the next slide, we will see this patchwork of different ornaments, which were used to create this modern visual identity of the games. Okay, in the last part of my presentation, I want to show some of the design workshops that we ran at the Faculty of Arts and Design, when we try to connect design and cultural heritage and to actually inspire our students to research more, to know the traditions more, and to try to implement them in, in the modern design. So this is a workshop that was for food packaging and how to use traditional ornaments in contemporary design, held in 2014. And then the next one is a Fashion and Cultural Heritage project, which was done in collaboration with the British Council, Museum of Macedonia, and there was this exhibition that came out of this project, which opened the Fashion Weekend Skopje in that year. So our students worked in the Museum of Macedonia. They researched, they had a workshop with Professor Susan Postlewaite from London College of Fashion in that time. Now she works at the Royal College of Art. And it was interesting to see how the students became more familiar with our traditions, how they use the ornaments, how they use different aspects of the national dress and the ornaments to implement in their modern designs. Okay, we will go next. So these are the student projects. You can see the reference, you can see the final outcome. And on the next slide, there is a collage of all the projects that were produced in that workshop. Another workshop that we did, we will see on the next slide. It's a project for digitalization of traditional textile ornaments. We did it in collaboration with Macedonian Design Council and the Institute of Folklore in Skopje. So the students got familiar with those ornaments by digitalizing them and vectorizing them in computers, and then they use these ornaments in their own concepts of design. Another example of that project in the next slide. This project was supported by the delegation of the European Union in Skopje under the European Year of Cultural Heritage in 2018. And the next one with the packaging design, and at the end I have some recommendations and some conclusions.
Sorry to interrupt you, Gordana, but please wrap up your session and finalize the conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you. This is the last slide.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so because the topic was design as an opportunity for evolution, so I wanted just to highlight the importance of design in these processes. So design processes and methods allow modernization of all traditional visual systems. And because design is interdisciplinary, it has the predisposition to enable integration of tradition and values of the cultural heritage and their transfer in contemporary digital and informatics era. Also, we saw the digitalization of the embroidery of woven and knitted textile motifs and ornaments, patterns and drawings of traditional dress. And also, what I think is needed is national registries of this material, because not everything is available online. And following the example of the National Registry of Tartans in Scotland, where authentic ornaments, patterns, and decorations are registered for their protection, promotion, and preservation. So that's what we need in our country. Of course, we need museums of designs and more departments of designs in Macedonia, and more activities for education, research, exchange, and availability of information and visual material on cultural heritage, and also learning traditional techniques in design schools. We don't have that, unfortunately. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Professor Francesca. I particularly like the personal elements in your presentation. It's always nice to hear the personal perspective. And we want to apologize again for the technical difficulties that we encountered during the presentations. We are working to fix them all. And now we have some interesting questions from the audience. But I have some. Just a second. While I'm waiting, I have one question for Dr. Kristen Scott. Today we touched a lot upon the topic of collaboration, and you have a hands-on experience, especially through the project that you've presented. Why is the international collaboration so important, in your opinion, and particularly through educational institutions? Will you continue this practice, and how to build these enduring synergies between young generations in both institutions?
I think collaborations of that sort is so important in understanding the value of other cultures, other cultural heritage, craft traditions, etc. And also, I think the systems around that, the meaning of them, and just sharing ideas to bring them to the forefront, to underline their contemporary and their enduring relevance. I mean, craft is a sustainable mode of production. It's really important that we don't lose anything. So the more that we can share, the more that our students, you know, the designers of the future, really understand and appreciate this and celebrate it in their work now and in the future is really important. Also, we just developing, I think, as global communities, developing an understanding of one another, an awareness even of one another. You know, I think some of my students in China had no idea, you know, about Macedonian culture at all. So it was really interesting for them not to, I mean, we've never had more information available to us, but we're also quite blinkered and quite contained in our little boxes sometimes, and just broadening people's perspectives can only be a good thing. Did I answer that, or did I go off?
Thank you so much, Dr. Scott. Now I have another question as well. Just a second. It goes to Professor Francesca. It is crucial. We actually talked about this in the conversation part, that it is crucial that the state institutions recognize the importance of design and invest in education, research, and development. This process seems to be slow in Macedonia. In your opinion, what is crucial to speed up the process?
Well, I think it goes back a bit, you know, a bit back, because when we talk about education, for example, as you know, a part of this state strategies and you know, state institutions. The Faculty of Visual Arts was opened. The first Faculty of Visual Arts in Macedonia was opened in 1980, and there is no state Faculty of Applied Arts or Design. So it's mostly a private initiative to you know, to have these design schools and faculties of design in private institutions, in private universities. So it's, you know, the education is lacking. Museums also. We don't have a museum of design. So how can we educate our students? How can we develop the discipline and develop the whole infrastructure if we don't have a museum of design? We don't have the theoreticians, people, art curators who are specialized in design. We don't have that. So it's not only, you know, the private initiatives and the private subjects to invest in that discipline, but the government should be really, you know, they should be hearing us, and they should start making more progress and invest more in, you know, in this. So it's on all the levels, I guess. We need improvement and development in all the levels of, you know, this infrastructure in order to become functional and to become relevant.
Address to you is from Professor King. His question is, what percentage of people wear national costume in the Balkans? If so, in what occasions?
Is this for me?
Yes, it's addressed to you, yes.
Well, I don't have data like in Norway. You know, in Norway you can find this data. In Macedonia, I couldn't find so far, but what I perceive and what I, you know, see is that the national costume is worn, you know, in small percentage, only with the folklore groups that practice, you know, traditional dances, maybe some traditional festivals that are held in villages, and some maybe rituals and I don't know, traditions in some of the villages, but not on national holidays, not on weddings or other official celebrations. You cannot see that.
Answers. We will have a short 10 minutes break now, and I want to thank all the participants in this second session. We will share the virtual exhibition with you afterwards, and thank you very much to all of you, and see you in 10 minutes.
Thank you.
Welcome everyone. Welcome to the last session for today. Again, we have a lineup of very interesting speakers, and not to lose more time, I want to introduce to you the first speaker of this third session. Is the president of World Crafts Council Europe, Elisa Guidi, who will talk about the manifesto for the future of crafts in Europe and why the support of this manifesto is so important. Elisa, welcome.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much for your invitation to this conference, which is really interesting, full of really important content and issues, and okay, and sorry, and challenges. Okay, can you see the presentation?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So thanks once again, and I will make a short speech about the the manifesto for future of craft, and also about Workcraft Council Europe, because perhaps someone among you doesn't know our organization. Okay, so who we are. Workcraft Council Europe is a non-profit membership organization which aims to promote craft at an international level, and also to encourage contact between craft people from different countries. I think that many of the topics we heard this morning are really interesting and are really suitable for our network, because you spoke about collaboration, exchanges, communication, information is what we are trying to do with our network and with our members. So first of all, our mission is to create an awareness and an appreciation and a knowledge about craft and about the role of craft in our life, in our societies, in our social and economic well-being, in our traditional and cultural aspects. So this is the first mission we have, because we need to make craft more known everywhere. Our vision, as you can see, is a world where craftsmanship and all the skills and all the techniques that compose craft will be appreciated by all members of our society, not only by professionals, not only by cultural actors, but also by people and by all our society. And our purpose is to strengthen the status of craft and promote craft, as I told you before, as a very vital part of our cultural, social, and economic life through our global network of members and affiliates. Because of course, I represent Workcraft Council Europe, but Workcraft Council is at international level too, is a global association at this moment. The main aims of Workcraft Council Europe are, first of all, political, because we need to provide a critical voice for craft, for craftsmen, to promote, to represent craft at international political level, both in our countries, but also at European level. Supportive, I mean, to build a new, strong and dynamic network through our members, and to develop effective communication in our network, and not only in our network. We need to spread awareness about craft, visible and representative. We need to exchange and to develop a resource of information through our channels, our Workcraft Council Europe website and social media channels. Strategic information need to be shared about opportunities and challenges facing the sector. As I told you before, when you spoke about collaboration, exchange, information, I think those are some of the main aims we have as Workcraft Council Europe. And the last one, resilient, we need to secure funding for craft. Our member and networks. Membership of Workcraft Council Europe is open to organizations within Europe that have a mandate to advocate for and develop craft. We have different types of membership: national members, regional members, professional members, and affiliate members with different kind of characteristics. Should you need further information, you can contact us and we can explain better the difference between these types. At the moment, we have over 50 members across 20 European countries. So we represent many craftsmen, and not only craftsmen. We have a different kind of activities. You can see here some ideas of our activity. The first one is the Craft Cities program, which is a global and international program, and is a way to promote and to present and to valorize craft in cities, and cities through craft. We have at the moment 2 craft cities in Europe, and we are assessing 2 more. We are really quick, and what we do, we participate also in some exhibition like Revelation in Paris in 2019, the European Prize for Applied Art in 2021. We work with Michelangelo Foundation for Homo Faber event, a Homo Faber guide, and we also work in European projects supporting our members to participate. We are now a member for we are a partner, an official partner of the new Bauhaus program. We were speaking this morning about sustainability, about responsibility, and we decided and applied, and we succeeded in become part of the new network, speaking about the new strategies at the European level to develop a new way of life, more sustainable development, in which craft can have a very important and significant role. So this is the heart of my presentation, our manifesto. Manifesto is a document we prepared in the occasion of the 40th anniversary of World Council Europe, and we made a survey among our members to understand the most important challenges and issues facing the craft sector. The result of this survey provide us the basis for the development of this Craft in Europe manifesto and action plan. The manifesto was launched at the Relation Paris in 2019. The manifesto has been translated into 8 languages, such as Portuguese, Spanish, French, English, Italian, and is available through our World Craft Council website and also through members' website. Nowadays, the manifesto has been signed by over 1,500 people and or association and or public administration through Europe. Some information about the content of Craft in Europe, the Craft in Europe manifesto. The action plan will find a solution about some topics, recognize the contribution that craft makes to our European society, to our heritage, culture, and economy. And this is a big part also, as I said before, of our activity in the framework of the new Bauhaus program, new European Bauhaus program. Celebrate this creative sector, which values the human connection to the world around us, and show the way forward a sustainable development in local economies. Provide appropriate support and legislation to enable the sector and also to support the sector in a commercial development. Try to build the future of the sector through appropriate training provision to ensure transmission of skills to young people. I saw before in the chat a question about data of craftsmen in Macedonia. We tried also to work on it at a European level, of course, because it's not so easy to have catalog or data about craft. Stimulate every kind of innovation to ensure the evolution of craft, and also raise awareness of the sector in order to promote, preserve, and protect European craft heritage that has been passed down through generation. we try and we aim to success in this action plan through different activities, and we made so an action plan that now we are going, of course, to update, because as you saw, our manifesto was created in 2019, and it was so before the pandemic, and the pandemic changed a lot. I hope not everything, but changed a lot about craft, but not only craft, about our way to think about our cities, our way to work, our way to live, our way to create a relationship to each other. So we need also to update our plan of activity concerning the results of pandemic. If you want, you can support the manifesto now and also be a part of our network. And you can simply sign the manifesto through our website when you want. And here you can find our website address to sign the manifesto, should you be interested in. And of course, you can also write us to have more information about our activity. I would like, before ending my presentation, just to explain that we are also organize a program of webinar about different topics. And webinars are open, so please contact us, be in touch with us, because we are really interested in what we are doing and in all those interesting experience about the collaboration and the contamination between craft and design, and also about all theme concerning sustainability, that now is a very important topic also for the craft world. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elisa, for the interesting presentation. Your work definitely deserves the visibility, I think, and I'm very happy that the manifesto has been translated in so many languages, and you are slowly getting the support, and you will attain it soon. And thank you again for your presentation. And if you want, you can share the link in the chat box so the participants can have a look and have more details about your organization. And our second speaker for this third session comes from Bosnia and Herzegovina. It's Leila Radomčić. She's the CEO of the NGO BH Crafts, the first awarded social business and the only guaranteed fair trade textile producer in the Balkans. So Leila, we are glad to have you with us today, and please share with us your story.
Hello, I'd like to welcome you to colorful world of Bosnian handicrafts, BH Crafts. I send the presentation. It's in Bosnian, so I can shortly interpret for you. I will really try to be as short as possible, because we are already behind the time. Yes. So I will present what Bosnian handicrafts / BH Craft actually is. As you said in the beginning, this is the first awarded and recognized social enterprise in Balkans. We got the award from Schwab Foundation for Social Entrepreneurship in 2001. And this is the first certified and the only guaranteed fair trade producer in Balkans. We are 200 in the world. On the list of guaranteed fair trade producers, we are number 200. So the first fair trade certificate was issued I think in 97. We call them, it's a proof that what we do is, first of all, women working with this project are paid a fair price for their labor work. They work in human conditions. Actually, they work from home. and for the most of them, that's the only source of income. As most of you probably know, Bosnia and Herzegovina is in a really bad transition process with a highly unemployment rate. It's nearly 50%. And when I talk about our beneficiaries, I talk about women from rural areas with very low education level, and they are not competitive on the labor market. But what they have beautiful, enormous native skills in handicraft techniques. What I did in '95, I recognized those skills and deciding to make them like a business or their sort of source of income, and we succeed in that. How we do it now, you can go to the next slide. These days, Bosnian Handicrafts is the most successful project this kind in Bosnia and Herzegovina. We work with a couple hundred women from both BH entities, meaning with all three ethnic groups, improving and polishing their skills, making them ready to work for the international markets. Our main goal is to find the markets, sell the goods, and create a possibility for our beneficiaries to have enough work and earn enough money. You can go on. This is who we are. So we are social business developed from the humanitarian project. The owner and the establisher of the business is still NGO, and all the profits business makes go back to the NGO, and we use it for the improvements, for trainings and other things. We love colors in Bosnian Handicrafts. We love kids. Our all collections, all things are very colorful, made with love, with a lot of patience, and thanks God, our consumers, they recognize that, and they respect what we do and how we do it, so they buy. We just signed the contract with our most important and the biggest buyer from the US. It's famous Sundance catalog, started and owned by Robert Redford. We signed the contract for this year, Christmas stockings production. It's a value of over $200,000, which really means that our beneficiaries will have a great chance to earn a lot of money till the end of the year. As you can see from the slides and from the photos, we use all four main techniques, handicraft techniques known in Bosnia and Herzegovina. But the main two we are using the most are knitting and crocheting. But, you know, trying to keep weaving alive, we still have that part of the project working with weavers, because we are not competitive in the market. As you know, India, Bangladesh, and these kinds of parts of the world are much lower wages. They pay lower wages to their producers. We pay fair price. So we're not competitive, but we keep those things to be sold on the local market through our retail store. And sometimes we also export those stuff, but we're very rare. What else we do is we introduced felting as a technique a couple of years ago, finding out that wool from Bosnian sheep is, in the most cases, it has been thrown away. It's a short hair wool, and it's not a good quality to be used for production of yarn. not for the sweaters and socks and hats, but it's beautiful quality for felting. So that's the fifth technique we introduced in the project a couple years ago. This is what you see on your screens is the history of Beechcraft. As you can see, we started in '95 in one refugee settlement near Tuzla. Today, this project works with, as I said, couple hundred women from all over the country. We have production units in each and every corner of the country, and working with beautiful women who are so loyal and so thankful for the opportunity to use their skills and gain money they need the most. Why the need is so important. I talk about women from rural areas, war widows, single mothers, women who, according to the tradition, were very relied on their husbands. Suddenly, during the war, they lost the male family members, and now they're the only, grown-ups who can bring money and food and pay for schooling for the kids. So they really desperately need the chance to start earning income. These are our beautiful Christmas stockings. We sell the best and we sell the most. Beechcraft is also, we are like 92% self-sustainable. It's very, business-oriented project. It's real social business. And we, during the pandemic, in the last year, we started two new online shops. One is for the foreign market, one is for the local market. But the best selling online is still, our shop at Etsy platform. And we are like famous worldwide for our Christmas stockings. Here you can see characteristic Bosnian patterns taken from these slipper socks. These are very traditional. We use those patterns very much and develop the collections of sweaters, hats, shawls, and different items. And these traditional patterns got very appreciated by all our customers. So what this project is doing is keeping this traditional handicraft techniques, which are important part of culture heritage, we keep it alive. We offer the possibility to vulnerable groups of women from all over the country to use their native skills and earn money. And we promote Bosnia and Herzegovina and its culture worldwide. I think I was really fast and short.
Yes, Baja, the mic is okay. So thank you so much. Yes, you are really 10 minutes sharp. So that's amazing. Thank you very much, because we are already behind time. Thank you very much for the interesting presentation. At the same time, we can actually see the love in the story. And I hope you progress and you will continue, and we will see many similar successful stories in the Balkans, like the BH Crafts. Thank you so much, Leila.
Thank you all.
So for now, our next speaker is the co-founder of Crafts Council Netherlands, Willemijn Eipel. I hope I pronounced it correctly.
Almost.
It's okay. Okay, you have a very attention-grabbing topic for today. How can we be aware if we don't know about the importance of transmission of knowledge and skills? So Willemijn, let us hear your thoughts. Thank you for being with us.
Do I share now? No.
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
We will do it from here.
Well, I prefer to do it myself.
Okay, is that okay? Okay, of course, no problem.
Can you see
Yes,
it?
we can see the presentation, yes.
Well, I'm Willemien Ippel from Crafts Council Nederland, and we're also a proud member of World Crafts Council. Thank you, Elisa. Yes, this is the title of my my talk. How can we be aware if we don't know? And a lot of people talked already about this, and we found out that the young people hardly know about their own crafts and about their heritage. What Crafts Council basically does is we are a connector between the past and the future, the culture and the business, the professional and the amateur, the young and the old. When we started 8 years ago, we knew the very worldwide renowned designers like Marcel Wanders, like Hella Jongerius, like Piet Hein Eek, but we didn't know the makers behind it. And what we started with is to make a crafts map. And this is the Crafts of Holland. We're a small country like Macedonia. And we are exploring where are the skills based. And well, it's with the people. This is amazing woodworker, a gold embroiderer, a basket maker, a blacksmith. And we are organizing also transmission of knowledge and skills outside the schools. So people have really a wish to learn, and you go in depth with the master for a few days. And also here we teach the young generation. It's the blacksmithing, weaving, we do already for the 5th year, weaving course, paper making, Delft blue, embroidery. And what we do this year, we started with...
Just one note, Willemien, we can't see the presentation.
That's a pity.
Do you want us to share it from here to try to do that?
Yeah.
And you can just guide us through the slides.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Just a second. Yes, here it is.
Okay. Yeah. Next, how you go through it all?
You can go to the slide that you were at. Just tell us which one.
Yeah, go on. Go on.
Go
You
on?
can go on now. You can
Go on.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
It's the people, the gold embroiderer, the basket maker.
Okay.
This is the master classes we organize for the younger generation. Well, not only the younger generation. We because what is traditional that you learn, for an example, knitting from your grandmother, and in education you don't have this anymore. That the older generation is connected to the younger generation, and that is what we are organizing. We can go on this weaving course. We can go on, yeah. Delft blue, paper making, Delft blue. Yeah, go on. Embroidery, and well, it starts already with that the young generation in the primary school can't make anymore. And what we do now is we have an online crafts class where young people, where children learn to make. And this is a very simple example of weaving. Next. And you can do it with everyday materials around you. Next. We connect the heritage with the now. Next. This is from the heritage costume in Staphorst. It's paint brought directly on the textile. Next. And Gerard van Oosten is one of the few craftsmen who makes it still. Next. Then Walter van Berendonck, the Belgian designer, came to us, and he wanted to have this, use this technique for his collection. The same he did next with the scarves from Volendam. Next. And he brought it to the catwalk in Paris. Next. Next. This is next. This is the heritage costume from Zeeland. And next, this is an interpretation, reinterpretation by a Dutch designer. Next. We connect international expertise with design. 4 of designers went to Japan to learn from the master indigo masters to use the indigo, and we presented this also in Nagasaki in Japan again. Next. We present always every year maker designers, as we call them, in Dutch Design Week, and that's a big presentation where a lot of people pass by. Now I would like to give an example, the linen project, how we cooperated with Artes fashion master students. And linen was a very worthwhile fabric. You see it in old paintings, and also young girls learned already the mending. This is the bleach fields. And this is how it was stocked in the Netherlands. It was also embroidered. Young girls started already on an early age to embroider with their initials. And also when they got married, the initials of the husband were there. This is a very happy cupboard, but you had a special cupboard for the linen cast. Already in the 1700s, there came cotton to Europe, which was especially not in the Netherlands, not a local fiber, and and also fast fashion was introduced. How fast will you get it, you know? And that made Artes and Crafts Council start a project. And we asked ourselves, can we grow our clothes again? And this is very small linen plants. And we start with a group of 30 people that are designers, that are nature lovers, that are students from the agricultural university. And we grow our own linen. And we take every step in this process to create our own textiles. And when you get this embodied knowledge, you really feel what it is to make a piece of cloth. You know, and this connection we really lost in our society now. And we have to reconnect with it. And we can't buy every month a new t-shirt. And this is also, maybe we can stop a little bit in this slide, the last, yes. This is happening in the Netherlands still. It is still this pre-spinning. So the pre-spinning is done in the Netherlands. And the normal way is that all this flax is going to Asia and especially China, to be spun and woven. Next. We found a spinning mill in Poland. And it's one of the last spinning mills because you need long yarn spinning, also long yarn wet spinning. And this is the weaving done in Enschede. So from our textiles, we know exactly where it's coming from and where it's produced. And that is what we need. We need the knowledge of the whole production chain. And that's not, and I think the Balkan is really advanced in this because you still know, you just have to go back to your grandmother and you know. In the Netherlands, we already gone much farther away from this. We have to rethink economic models because why is the farmer, can we go back? why is the farmer paid so few? And we are the soil we are depending on. We need transmission of knowledge. We need co-creation and international cooperation, and especially we need new consumers, because everybody here is telling about the importance of the crafts, but what are you wearing yourself? You know, are you wearing every day something handmade? Are you wearing something that where you know where it's coming from? Do you really connect with your clothes? And in this case, we can't be ignorant anymore. We have to take responsibility. Next. Yes, start.
Okay, thank you very much, Philomen. Thank you for sharing lots of interesting information with us. It was visually interesting as well. I hope you provoked many interesting thoughts and ideas among the public. Also, thank you for being really sharp with the time slot of 10 minutes. I want to ask the audience to be patient with us. We only have 2 more interesting presentations. And please write your comments and questions directly in the chat box so the presenters, the speakers can address them there directly. And now let's continue in the same spirit. The next speaker is Natasha Sivevska, the director of the Macedonian Textile Trade Association. Circular economy and circular fashion are terms that become more and more present in the fashion industry narrative. So Natasha will speak about the innovative practices in circular economy in the fashion industry. Welcome, Natasha.
Thank you very much for the invitation at this very interesting event. So I will start immediately with my presentation in the interest of time. Okay. So I want to share the information about the project that we recently finished, a 2-year project from Erasmus Plus program. Next slide, please. Can I have the next slide? Is it, I'm not seeing the next slide. Okay, thank you. The fashion and textile industry, one of the most polluting industry in the world. The fashion industry CO2 emissions are projected to increase by more than 60% to nearly 2.8 billion tons per year by 2030. At the same time, the volume of fresh water consumed by the fashion industry is 79 million cubic meters, and it is predicted to increase by 50% in 2030. So regarding the European Union markets, in 2016, the European Union was the major market for clothing, accounting for 37% of world imports, being the second world top textile exporter. The European Commission estimates that the European Union textile industry generates waste at 60 million tons per year, which is very high amount and have a negative impact on the environment. Thereby, it is obvious the necessity to move away from the current linear model to a new circular textile model. In this direction, in the textile and fashion sector, design is a key step to produce the transition to a circular model of textile and apparel production. 80% of products' environmental impact is locked in the design stage. Hence, the report, A New Textile Economy, highlights design as a strategic action toward the circular textile sector, taking in account that design and producing clothes of higher quality and providing access to them via new business models will help shift the perception of clothing from being a disposable item to being a durable product. Next slide, please. Okay, it's okay. The circular economy points that the transition to a circular economy will also require a qualified workforce with specific and sometimes new skills. And if the skills if the right skills at all levels are to be developed, they will have to be exposed by the education and training system. Next slide, please. I think you skipped one slide. If you can go back. Okay, I think we mix it, but it doesn't matter. Okay, so what is the main purpose of the platform we develop under the project of innovative design practices for achieving a new textile circular economy? So in this project, we participate 6 countries from Latvia, Romania, Belgium, Spain, Portugal, and Macedonia. And we develop a curriculum, and the final goal was to develop a platform, a learning platform that will be served to the young designers and all interested parties to gain the knowledge for the circular economy and design in the circular economy. Next slide, please. So what is the main purpose of the platform? To get new competencies, knowledge, and skills in the field of eco-design and eco-innovation. To thrive in a circular economy, we advise all interested parties to enroll to the eco-design for circular economy in the textile and fashion industry. Even if the course is focused on eco-design and eco-innovation for the textile and fashion industries, it will also be benefit for the other sectors, as the modules regarding basic principles of the circular economy and circular business models or eco-design could cover also knowledge gaps in other sectors as well. The course is designed to inform about ethical challenge arising in businesses and help the learners to identify and manage difficult ethical dilemmas they are likely to encounter in their career. Who can attend at this course? An employee from the textile and fashion industry, managers from textile and fashion companies, students who attend courses in field of textile and designs, and of course freelance designers. Some information about course details. So we have developed 7 modules. The modules are in the field of introduction of circular economy, sustainability challenges in the textile and fashion industry. Of course, here in this model, we have accent on the CSR, social corporative responsibility. It was mentioned in the previous presentation, which is very important. And we as a textile cluster are investing a lot in these activities and develop services for our members for implementing social and corporative responsibilities. Can you go back, please? Once more. If you can go back, or let me open the presentation. So if you can go back on the modules, I just presented 2 of the modules. So the 3rd module are materials for circular economy. The 4th module is design for a circular economy. The 5th module is manufacture for a circular economy. Then recycling technologies for the circular economy in the textile and fashion industry. And the last module is business management in the circular economy. We have from the right side the hours that the students should spend on the learning modules, and then the self-study that they should invest for this learning modules. On the next slide, I'm not sure are all seeing the next slide that in the proper order, but I'm showing the eco-design for circular economy learning platform where all modules are identified, and then the students can use also the lessons and units under each modules, then the glossary and additional readings are available as well. And then at the end of each module, they should go through the tests. The next slide that is also about the platform. And then I would like to share some best practices that we raised in the projects among the project partners. Next slide. Okay, so it is a Latvian brand Gile that is producing, which production is based on concept of upcycling while trying to reflect it as a symbol of identity, character and possibility, in the same time promoting green lifestyle. Then we have a Romanian brand SC Cotton Tech that shared a vision of sustainability in the shape of upcycling and fair production condition. They create an airbag company which produce trendy backpacks from airbags and old safety belts. And then we have Ghana Studio, another Romanian brand established 2011 by the former model Florian Sendu. And this brand is an ethical and sustainable fashion label. Products are made with eco-friendly and recycled materials and locally woven textiles. On this slide, we can see the designer Reed Ace, who is dedicated to slow fashion, and her upcycled collection is entirely made from post-production leftovers. She keeps proving that clever design can salvage mountains of unused textile and the natural resources spent to produce these textiles. And then we have the two brands in the shoe production part. It is Zoru, an eco-vegan footwear brand that uses plastic trash from the Portuguese coast together with ecological and sustainable materials. And another Portuguese brand, No Animal Exploitation brand. It is a vegan footwear brand. It proposes a fair and animal-friendly alternatives against human exploitation and respect to the environment. They work with natural materials such as cork and pineapple. Recycled materials are airbag and PET plastic bottles, and synthetic materials as ecological microfibers. Next slide, please. So, at last but not least important, I would like to mention the Macedonian designers with whom I had the opportunity to talk on the topic of recycling, reusing, redesigning in direction of circular economy, and who have been active in this field for a long time. For this occasion, I choose the model of our world-famous designer Nikolai Eftimov, the mystical home corset, which is presented by Mixed Media on cotton fabric. And the corset is made with reuse and recycled material. I really admire his engagement in the field of circular production, and especially in the part of design for sustainability or design for cycle. At the same time, I'm happy with the dedication of our famous designer Irina Tocheva in the field of sustainable fashion and her latest collection, Mur. So the collection consists of textures, environmentally friendly fabrics in natural tones, such as rustic cotton jacquard, hemp, and jute woven with raw silk, muslin from organic hemp, and linen with European flag certification. So at the end, I would like to conclude with the hope that through the commitment of designers and the education of the new generation of designers in the direction of sustainable fashion, we will be able to move toward a circular production model, because it is the only way to protect the planet from harmful effects of the textile waste. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Natasha. This was inspirational and certainly deserves further discussion in our country, but in the Balkan region as well. Because we're disturbed past the time, I will ask my question to you directly in the chat. Please check it afterwards. Thank you again for being with us. And now we have our last speaker for today. It's Yelena Karitonova. She is the founder of Caravan Cultura Creart Agency in Netherlands. Today, Jelena will speak about the renewed purposes of fashion. Welcome, Jelena. I know you have a very interesting presentation. We can't wait to hear it. Thank you very much. Jelena, can you hear us? You're here? Okay, can you hear us? Okay. Can you hear something there? Jelena, please check your mic if it works. We can't hear you here.
Yes, dear
Okay,
colleagues,
perfect. You're here.
that was totally my mistake. I had to mute myself. Let me start again. Thank you so much for the invitation. Can you hear me now? Yes?
Yes, we can see the start of the presentation. Thank you.
I have to probably come back a couple of months ago, maybe in December previous year, when we came together with Svetlana and Jan to talk about this beautiful edition of Fashion Colloquium, or nowadays we call it Responsible Future Fashion. And just, I'm so happy it materialized. And now after half of the year, we have this beautiful presentation online. We very much hope so. That for the future to come, it will be offline. But I actually want to start with my beautiful piece of bijou, which is coming also from Balkans. I remember maybe 15 years ago when I was scrolling the streets of the beautiful city Ohrid, I had to think about this idea of presenting the Balkan region via its creative power, via its spiritual power. But when it started to materialize, it was 2017, and I'm showing a kind of a Bible to you of a professor from Belgrade and also a member of NCAT, Milena Dragic-Šešić, about cultural diplomacy and how we can use fashion as a cultural diplomacy. But within this presentation, I would like to speak about 3 very interesting initiatives which are taking part in the Netherlands. They're totally bottom-up initiative. The first one is New Order of Fashion. The boutique of office of which is very nearby to my home. I'm based nowadays in Eindhoven, the Netherlands. And they call this platform New Fashion Store. And this is a beautiful idea. It's actually started previous year in October, just during the pandemic. So, you know, the whole fashion world was stopped, basically the whole industry. So what these young, bright graduates of our local design academy started to do, they started to collect the old clothes from the citizens of Eindhoven. You know, right in the middle of Central Station, they put huge containers and people were donating clothes for them. Then they moved their, so to say, boutique and office, next slide, please, to one of the galleries in the city and explicitly opened it in front of the biggest H&M store, just, you know, in order to raise awareness of what's happening in the fashion industry. And they're flashing with the numbers, they're explaining how we have to be responsible, what it means to, you know, to be involved. And they are promoting clothes donation. Basically, the whole city is coming and donating clothes to them. And what they do, they bring it to a local small fabric near the city. They recycle it again. So we have also local recycling. And then they produce new materials, both us and the lady like here. I'm explaining the process, how it works. Basically, all the clothes coming into one container and then recycled. And at the end of the day, we have a beautiful new product made out of the new garment. So they also every weekend organizing swap parties, so to say, so where they you know, encourage all of us to exchange our clothes. So this is a beautiful way to not to use the new clothes but to use pre-loved ones. And the last one, they say, well, donate clothes to us, we will sell it. And all the profits will go to our business. So basically, I also donated a couple of pieces and I swapped a couple of pieces. The next slide, please. This is a new initiative. It's actually an international platform. We are going from Eindhoven to Amsterdam. Also a totally bottom-up approach where big companies, big corporations like Kering, Stella McCartney, Adidas, etc., decided just to open in Europe a hub where they also can, rely on principles of good and sustainable fashion, and they try to make our planet flourish again. And it's a very interesting, it's a huge building, also a chateau on 5 floors, and they have different kind of activities happening there. They have obviously a co-working space. I was a co-worker maybe 5 years ago. During their first year, they organized different seminars, presentations, etc. They also show via their showroom and a museum. Finally, they applied and they got a status of the museum, how the whole process from A to B has been happening. And also they have an accelerator, earlier stage, late stage accelerator, so they can help to companies to accelerate, to proceed further in their processes. So I encourage you to look at the website of this place and contact them, because they're constantly looking for new regions, for new colleagues. For example, now they opened, let's say, a special department for South Asia or Asia, and maybe possibly for the future to come, they might consider opening a special department for Balkans, because what you have been doing, this is fantastic. Tomorrow we have the second day. I think this organization is something to you. You might also consider opening maybe Fashion for Good Balkans. So this is the second initiative, Fashion for Good. And if we will move to the last slide, which is almost the next slide. This is also very near and dear to me, because all these ladies, I know them very well. They used to be students of our local Eindhoven Design Academy. And 5 years ago, they were so much inspired by their indeed grandmother here in Eindhoven, and how carefully she was preserving her old clothes and shoes, etc., and then showing and giving as presents to relatives, friends, etc., that they opened a local vintage store with beautiful idea of, receiving clothes for donations, reselling it in a totally different way. And I remember 5, maybe 10, it started 10 years ago. The whole city, especially students, didn't want to go to fast fashion shops, but they were going to these ladies. But voila, they moved to Amsterdam 5 years ago. Indeed, you show one of the last slides, and they opened a fashion library. What does it mean? So they really have, this is the last slide, I will keep my eye on it. So what they have, so you actually can borrow clothes, and they also created a beautiful, encouraging system of membership, like you are a member of a library. So here you are a member of a fashion library. So you are collecting points, and according to your system, you can also donate, you can buy, you can borrow clothes, and a lot of people do that. So it's a beautiful kind of new business model, how to proceed further. And I know some more, so to say, people in the Netherlands, at least I know also in Belgium and Flanders, they're inspired by these models. And I also, again, time and again, encourage you to look at the website of Lena Fashion Library, which is based in Amsterdam. And I very much hope that our story will, if you move to the last slide, to very last slide, which is this one, take a look at the website. I very much hope that this story will continue. I know that tomorrow we will have more presentations and master classes of young designers from Balkans. But I think for the future to come, we will continue this exciting story, and let's keep in touch. Let's be inspired by each other presentations, and let's work together. And time and again, thank you so much, Svetlana. Thank you so much, Jan. Thank you so much, Anik, and other dear colleagues and friends. Let's keep in touch. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Jelena. It's a very motivational presentation. What a collaborative spirit. You presented a very interesting concept, and I just have one short question for you. What are the everlasting challenges that you face in your work?
Yes, it's a very good question because, you know, when you are based in the city of Dutch design, which is Eindhoven, you are working, you know, it's a kind of normal everyday modus operandi. You are speaking with creatives. But when you are sometimes going outside of your bubble and try to explain to people from other, so to say, industries or fields what we are all about, you know, what the status of our creative industries are, people sometimes you have to explain twice or even more times. You know, I'm always giving an example of our, so to say, fashion queen here, or my personal kind of goddess of inspiration, Lida by Edelkoort, who was the director of Design Academy of Eindhoven, and in her recent exhibition in Lille, and in her recent, so to say, World of Horror or Forum presentation, she called it Labor of Love. She calls all of us creative people, you know, arbeiders. We are makers of contemporary design. We are practicing ethical principles. You know, we're reviving the loom. We are looking how to recycle waste, how to give additional life. And I think how we just see how to include different parts of the society, because I think fashion and design and what we do nowadays, it's about social cohesion. It's about reconnecting us again and guiding us towards a better tomorrow. I think this is an everyday challenge. Thank you.
Jelena, for the answer. I think it's really good to end today's webinar on this note. Just think outside the box if you want to have a successful story. And now we're wrapping up for today. I want to thank you all the speakers and all the participants. Especially thank you for staying a bit longer with us today. We heard so many interesting presentations, concepts, ideas in the last 3 hours. And of course, we have lots to reflect on. So we hope to see you again tomorrow at 10 a.m. And tomorrow the focus will be on sustainable fashion through crafts connection and a holistic approach to the traditional values in fashion and crafts with a modern twist. So tomorrow we have another interesting day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.